They said the pool was safe, chlorinated, clean, and calm. But calm is how darkness waits, patient and deep. It moved just once, a ripple, a shadow, a lie. And when we saw it, it was already too late. The sign was taped hastily to the fence. Bold black letters on neon orange cardstock. If you see something move in the pool, get out immediately. A joke, we thought. A prank by one of the teens from town. This was Pinecrest after all. Nothing ever happened here except summer, ice cream, and the occasional lost flip-flop. I remember that day vividly. The air was humid. The kind of thick heat that clings to your skin and slows your breath. The water in the pool shimmered under the sun, a perfect turquoise mirror framed by white tiles and the buzzing of cicadas. It was the second week of July, high summer, and the community pool had finally reopened after 3 years of renovations. New locker rooms, new filtration systems, a fresh coat of blue paint on the bottom so vibrant it seemed to glow. Everyone in the neighborhood was buzzing about it. It was the first time in years that something felt exciting. Or new. We arrived. Around noon. Me, my younger brother Eli, and our cousin Lexi, who was visiting from the city. Eli was 12, wild-haired and curious, always asking questions no one could answer. Lexi was 17, distant and sharp like flint, pretending to be unimpressed by the small-town spectacle. I was 15, somewhere in between them both, stuck in that awkward summer where you feel too old to be a kid, but too young to be anything else. "Did you see that sign?" Lexi asked as we passed through the gate. Eli scoffed. "Probably. Someone being stupid like last year's haunted ice cream truck thing." Lexi smirked, but her eyes stayed on the fence a beat too long. Still weird, though. I didn't say anything. The truth was, the sign was weird. It wasn't funny, not really. It was specific. Oddly specific. Not "don't swim alone" or "beware of sharks." The kind of harmless pool humor you'd expect. No, this one read like a warning someone needed us to hear. Like it had been written in a hurry. Like someone had seen something. But none of that mattered once we were in the water. There were maybe 30 people around that day. Moms with toddlers, teenagers slouched on pool chairs with their headphones, in a few older swimmers doing slow laps in the deep end. The lifeguard, a tanned college kid with mirrored sunglasses, barely glanced up from his phone. Music played from a portable speaker. Chlorine stung the air. It felt safe, normal, until it didn't. It started with a ripple. Just one. Small, delicate, the kind that could be caused by anything. A breeze, a shift in weight, the lazy kick of a swimmer. But it moved against the flow of the pool. That's what made me pause. I was floating on my back, eyes half closed, the sun warming my face. I felt the ripple before I saw it. A pulse beneath me, subtle but wrong, as if something large had passed silently beneath. I opened my eyes and sat up. There was nothing, just water. Clear, calm, ordinary. I turned to Eli, who was mid-cannonball, laughing. Lexi lay on a towel by the edge, sunglasses on, one earbud in. Everything looked fine, but I couldn't shake the feeling. That's when I saw it. Not a shape, not clearly, but a shadow. At the bottom of the deep end, a blur, a flicker. It moved, not fast, not slow, but with purpose. Then it was gone. "Hey!" I shouted, half standing in the shallow water. "Did anyone see that?" No one looked. Or maybe no one wanted to. Lexi raised an eyebrow. "See what?" In the water. Something moved. Eli swam up next to me. "Like a fish?" "There are no fish in here," I said, voice low. "This is a pool." "Maybe it was a leaf," Lexi said, shrugging. "Or your imagination." "Maybe, but I wasn't the only one who saw it." 2 lanes down, an older man, Mr. Kessler, the retired history teacher, had stopped mid-lap. He floated in place, eyes fixed on the deep end. He looked pale. Then he swam to the edge, fast, and climbed out of the pool without a word. That was the first time I felt fear. Not the loud, panicked kind. The cold, sinking kind that wraps around your spine and whispers, "Something is wrong." I kept watching the water. No ripples now, no shadow, no sign of movement at all. But the sign came back to me, as if someone whispered it behind my ear. "If you see something move in the pool, get out immediately." I should have listened. We all should have. By 1:30 p.m., the heat was unbearable. Lexi had moved to a shaded bench near the concession stand, scrolling through her phone, pretending to be bored but watching the pool over her sunglasses. Eli kept trying to dunk me underwater. I forced myself to play along, to laugh, to forget the movement I'd seen, but that feeling hadn't left. The prickling on the back of my neck, the sense that something else was in the water with us. Around 2 p.m., the lifeguard blew his whistle, not the short burst that meant stop horseplaying, but a long, shrill note that made everyone freeze. A hush fell over the pool. The music stopped. The water lapped quietly at the edges. "Everyone out!" he shouted, standing up in his tower. "Out of the pool!" There were murmurs, confusion, obedience. No one argued. Maybe it was the tone of his voice, or maybe everyone had felt it. That subtle wrongness that was growing thicker in the air like ozone before a lightning strike. Eli scrambled up the ladder and I followed. I didn't know why I was shivering. The sun was blazing, and I wasn't. Cold, but I couldn't stop shaking. "What's going on?" Lexi asked, stepping closer. The lifeguard didn't answer. He had his phone out, dialing, pacing. His eyes never left the water. Then the surface moved. Not rippled, moved. A swell formed in the deep end, as if something large had just turned over beneath the surface. The water sloshed against the tile edge. A few people gasped. Someone screamed. Then it was gone, still again. But that was enough. By 2:30, the entire facility was closed. Staff escorted us out, locking the gates behind us. No explanations, just nervous glances. One mother asked about the sign, the strange one. A manager just shook her head and told her to call the county, whatever that meant. That night, our phones lit up with texts. "Did you guys see that today? UTF was that?" My cousin said her friend passed out at the pool. Ambulance came, L8R. Is this like a new chlorine thing? Parasite outbreak? The town Facebook page was flooded with speculation. No official updates, just a message, out. Of an abundance of caution, Pinecrest Community Pool is closed until further notice. Please respect all safety signs. Do not attempt to enter the facility. But it wasn't over, because Eli started acting weird. It began with sleepwalking. The first night, I heard him get up around 3 a.m. I found him in the backyard, barefoot, his pajamas soaked through with sweat, or maybe water. Just standing there, staring at the garden hose, which was hissing quietly. Running, even though no one had turned it on. I touched his shoulder. He didn't flinch. "Eli," I whispered. "What are you doing?" "I heard it," he said, voice dreamy, distant. "It's still swimming." "What is?" He looked up at me. His eyes were open, but he wasn't in them. "The thing from the deep," he said. The next day, he didn't remember any of it. By the weekend, 3 people had gone. Missing. All unrelated. All last seen near Pinecrest's water systems. A maintenance worker at the water tower, a boy who swam laps at the high school, and Mrs. Albright, who lived next to the reservoir. Rumors swirled like algae. They're lying. It came from the pipes. The town's cursed. And yet, no one connected it all publicly. Not until we went back. It was Lexi's idea. "We have to see what it is," she said. "No one's going to tell us the truth, but maybe we can find it ourselves." She was restless. tired of being treated like a kid. Maybe she wanted to prove something. Maybe we all did. So we snuck out. Midnight, 3 flashlights. A pair of bolt cutters Lexi borrowed from Uncle Dave's garage. The gate around the pool was locked with a heavy chain. Lexi cut through it in 2 sharp snaps. We slipped inside. The water looked black in the moonlight. Still, flat, empty. But the sign was still there. If you see something move in the pool, get out immediately. This time, it didn't feel funny at all. Eli stood back. I don't like this, he whispered. It knows we're here. Lexi waved him off. There's nothing in there. It's a pool. Look, I'll prove it. Before I could stop her, she stepped onto the diving board, walked to the edge. The board creaked under her weight. Lexi, don't, I hissed. We don't know what. She dove. The splash was quick, controlled. She disappeared into the dark water, her flashlight left behind on the edge. We waited. 5 seconds, 10, 30. Lexi. I called out, panic rising. Then the surface exploded. She came up screaming, thrashing, her mouth wide in a soundless howl. Her eyes were full of something ancient, terror beyond words. Get out! She shrieked. It's... And then she was. Yanked backward, hard, by something unseen. She vanished beneath the water. Gone. We never saw her again. Not even a ripple remained, just stillness and silence. The water took her like it was hungry. No splash, no bubbles, just silence. We ran, but the sound of her scream followed us for days. And that night, the pipes began to whisper. We ran home in silence. Eli clutched my hand so tightly it went numb. My legs burned, my lungs tore. But we didn't stop. Not until we slammed the door shut behind us and collapsed in the hallway, shaking. Lexi was gone. There was no time to explain to anyone, no way to go to the police and say, she vanished into the pool and something pulled her down. They'd laugh. Or worse, they'd accuse us. The security cameras had been removed during renovations. There were no other witnesses. It would be our word against the dark. That night, I didn't sleep. And when I finally did, I dreamed of water, of a vast black ocean with no shore, of a whispering voice from the deep, of Lexi floating, eyes wide, mouth open, arms limp, staring up at me through 30 feet of water that glowed faintly blue like the bottom of the Pinecrest pool. Woke to the sound of pipes hissing. It was 4:17 a.m. The bathroom faucet was on, full blast. Eli stood in front of it, pale and dazed, dripping wet in his pajamas. I pulled him away gently, turned the water off. Eli, you're sleepwalking again. He looked at me, eyes vacant. She's not dead, he whispered. My stomach turned. What? She's still down there, but she's not her anymore. Then he blinked and asked where he was. By morning, the whole town knew Lexi was missing. Her aunt, my mom, was in hysterics. Police interviewed us, but Eli and I stuck to the same story. We hadn't seen her since she went out late with friends. A lie that tasted like bleach. Still, the whispers began. 3 people missing last week. Now Lexi. All of them connected to Pinecrest's water. That afternoon, a man named Reuben Vance came to our door. Mid-60s, deeply tanned, wiry with a long gray beard and eyes like cracked glass. He wore a janitor's uniform from the city, water department, and carried a thick yellowed notebook under his arm. I need to speak to the boy, he said without preamble. The younger one. My mother bristled. Who are you? He's been marked, Vance said, and if we don't act, it'll take him next. We should have slammed the door, but we didn't, because deep down, I already knew he was right. We met in the garage. Vance laid out the notebook on the workbench, its pages filled with hand-drawn diagrams of the Pinecrest pool, notes scrawled in tight handwriting, old newspaper clippings. At the center of it all was a name, the Hollow Current. You think "This is a joke," he said. "That what you saw was some chlorine hallucination. You're wrong." He tapped a photo, black and white, grainy, of the pool under construction in 1978. They built that pool on top of a sealed well, an artesian spring. Something old runs beneath Pinecrest, something that was never meant to be disturbed. I flipped through his pages, historical records, pages of a torn water department manual, and a page titled Phase Shift Activity Witness Report. Code blue symptoms, sudden cold, distorted water reflection, loss of time. Final stage, the ripple. Then it takes. Vance lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. It starts with a ripple, then dreams. Then the water starts, calling them. The marked ones. Always kids. Sensitive to things adults forget how to feel. I glanced at Eli. He looked smaller than ever. Pale, hollow-eyed. "What happened to Lexi?" I asked. "She's trapped," Vance said. "Inside the current. But she's not alone. There are dozens of them. Maybe more. All part of it now." Eli suddenly stood. "Can we save her?" Vance's expression tightened. "There's only one way to sever the link, before the current takes another." He reached into his satchel and pulled out a brass key, old and ornate, covered in strange symbols. "There's a drain beneath the pool," he said. "Older than the structure itself. It leads to the source. You want to save your cousin? You have to go down." That night the dreams came back, but this time I wasn't alone. Eli stood beside me in the dream. We were underwater, floating just above the tiled bottom of the pool. Below us, the drain pulsed like a beating heart. From it, voices rose in a chorus of whispers, calling, pleading, warning. And then I saw Lexi, or what was left of her. She floated in the darkness, hair streaming upward, eyes glowing faintly blue. Her mouth moved, forming a single word: run. The next morning, the town began to crumble. A sinkhole opened near the reservoir. The water tower began to tilt. Pipes burst across neighborhoods. No one could explain it. The water was rising, and Eli was running out of time. We met Vance again that night outside the pool gates. He unlocked the maintenance hatch behind the filtration building and led us down a ladder into the darkness. The air was damp, warm, and pulsing. "You go through the valve room. Down the catwalk, past the secondary drain," he instructed. "At the end is the gate, the real one. It's sealed with iron. But your blood opened it last time." "My what?" I asked. "You swam in it. It tasted you. You're connected now. Both of you." Before I could ask more, he pressed a flashlight into my hand and said, "Once you're in, you've got 10 minutes. Then the current seals." The hatch shut above us with a clang. We moved through the tunnel in silence. The concrete beneath our feet was slick. The air buzzed like static. Every now and then, we heard things splashing in the distance, echoes that didn't make sense. A girl crying, a man laughing, and then we found the gate, iron bars, rusted and twisted, pulsing faintly like something behind them was breathing. The lock opened at my touch, just like Vance said, and the smell, God, the smell, like old copper and rot. We stepped into the chamber, a vast circular room, stone walls slick with algae. In the center, a black pool, not water, something thicker. It glistened like oil, and hovering above it was Lexi. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't thrashing. She was waiting. "Lex!" I shouted, stepping forward. She looked at me, her lips curled in a sad smile. "You shouldn't have." "Come!" The pool below her began to churn. Eli screamed. I turned. A hand made of water was wrapping around his leg, pulling him backward. I dove. Fingers found his wrist. I pulled. He slipped free, coughing, shaking, sobbing. The water rose higher. The current began to spin. Lexi was crying now. "I can't hold it much longer. It wants him." "No," I said, stepping into the water. "Take me instead." The current froze. Then it surged. A wall of liquid slammed into me, yanking me down into the dark. For a moment, I saw everything, all the lost ones, drifting through the hollow current, faces locked in silent screams. And then, nothing. Just black. I woke on the concrete outside the pool. It was dawn. Eli knelt beside me, crying. Lexi was gone. The pool was empty, forever. The pool was drained, but the water still whispered. Every pipe hummed with voices not our own. The town was sinking, not just in land, but in truth. And the only way out was through the drain that should have never been opened. The pool stayed closed after that night. But even drained, it wasn't silent. Vance warned us not to return. He said the gate was weakening, that whatever kept the hollow current below was no longer holding. But he also said something else. If it's reached the pipes, it's already begun. And he was right. By the end of the week, all of Pinecrest knew something was wrong. The drinking water turned brackish, brown and thick. Then came the air, wet and heavy, like walking through a swamp. One by one, houses flooded from the inside out. Faucets running red, showers dripping dark sludge, toilets backing up with the smell of rot and iron. Still, no one knew the truth. Only us, and we knew we had a choice, leave or stop it. Vance said he'd found blueprints, old ones, from the 1950s, before the pool was built. The city had tried to cap the original spring twice, first with stone, then with iron. But something inside kept cracking the foundation. It's not just water, Vance told us, unrolling a long, stained map of underground tunnels. It's a conduit, a living system. It moves like an animal. It feeds. He pointed to a section labeled Subdrain 3B, decommissioned. That's where we go next. The drain that feeds the drain. Eli and I exchanged a glance. We were exhausted, haunted. But more than anything, we were done being afraid. We left at nightfall. Subdrain 3B was hidden beneath the old municipal building, long since condemned. Vance picked the lock to a rusted metal door and led us down a stairwell that reeked of old chlorine, mildew, and something deeper, like something left underwater too long. The tunnel beyond was low, narrow, and filled with sound. Groaning metal, distant splashing, and now and then, a faint voice calling our names. Lexi's voice, but it wasn't her anymore. Not really. We pushed through it, flashlights trembling, the walls oozing condensation that moved like it was alive. Vance was muttering to himself, holding tight to a small leather bag slung over his shoulder. "What's in there?" Eli whispered. "My insurance," he said. We didn't ask more. Eventually, we reached the heart of it. A wide open chamber lined in concrete and steel, with a massive central valve, the original cap to the spring, covered in rusted iron runes. Vance knelt beside it, pressing his palm to the metal. "It's thinner than before," he said. "You can feel it. Breathing." I stepped closer. He was right. The metal pulsed under my feet like a heartbeat. Something below was stirring. Something aware. The hollow current lives beneath, Vance said. Not just a creature, not just water. It's a hive, a memory. Every soul it takes becomes part of it. Every body. Dissolved, absorbed, remembered. It doesn't just drown them, it keeps them. He looked at me. "You still want to save her?" I nodded. "Then you'll have to go deeper." He opened the leather bag. Inside was a glass vial, filled with glowing blue liquid, swirling like smoke. "What is that?" Eli asked. "Purged salt," Vance said. "Blessed and boiled from an ancient sea. You drop this into its core, and it severs the connection." "But," I asked, reading, the hesitation in his eyes, "it won't let you leave afterward." Silence. Then Eli stepped forward. "I'll go." "No," I said immediately. "It's me it wants. It's always been me." We argued for a minute. Pointless. In the end, I took the vial, stuffed it into my jacket, and climbed onto the valves. Iron plate. Vance began the ritual, reading something from a torn notebook in a strange, rhythmic cadence. The iron groaned beneath me. The runes lit faintly red. Steam hissed from the seams. And then the valve opened. The tunnel down was vertical, a long shaft slick with algae and shadow. I slipped, fell, and landed with a splash in water so cold. It turned my breath solid. I was inside the hollow current. Everything was warped. The water glowed a soft blue, casting ghost-like shadows across curved, natural stone walls. I could see shapes drifting in the distance. Children, adults, animals, faces. Some reached toward me with glassy eyes. Others floated in, perfect stillness, as though frozen in time. And in the center of it all was her, Lexi. She hovered inches above the water, hair moving slowly as if underwater. But she wasn't. She looked alive, whole. But her eyes weren't hers. They told me you'd come, she said. It's in you now, too. What is? Her smile widened. The memory, the depth, the forever. I pulled the vial from my jacket. Her expression flickered. Pain, fear, anger, all in an instant. Don't, she whispered. If you do this, you won't wake up. I hesitated. My hand shook. This was my cousin, my best friend, my family. But then I remembered the scream, the way she'd vanished under the water. The thing she had become. I opened the vial. The glow burst out in a violent surge, blue fire colliding with the glowing water. The chamber screamed, not Lexi, not voices, but the current itself. It twisted and writhed and surged, and then everything exploded into white. I woke up in a hospital bed, alone. The window showed clear skies, no water, no rain, just sunlight. Vance was gone. Eli was asleep in the chair beside me. My mom cried when I opened my eyes. They said I'd been found on the edge of town, unconscious, soaked in salt water. Lexi was never found. The pool was demolished. The pipes were replaced. The town began to heal. But some nights I wake up to the sound of water running, and the drain, even in my own bathroom, pulses beneath my feet like a quiet, distant heartbeat. Waiting. It never ends with a scream. It ends in silence, where water waits and memory drowns. Some doors can't be closed, even after the flood, because what lives below learns to wait. A year passed. Pinecrest rebuilt. The pool was replaced by a concrete park. New families moved in. And the old stories became whispers, the kind people pass around at parties with flashlights under their chins, never knowing how close the darkness really is. But for me and Eli, the horror never really left, because we remembered. The dreams had quieted, mostly. No more visions of Lexi hovering above black water, no more voices in the pipes. But now and then, the drains still bubbled on their own. Eli started avoiding sinks altogether. We didn't talk about it much anymore. But one word was always between us, silent and pressing: gate. Because deep down, we knew what Vance had, hinted at but never said, that there wasn't just one hollow current. It started again on the last day of school, June 10th. Exactly 364 days since Lexi disappeared. I found Eli standing outside the park's new fountain, staring into the slow swirl of water with wide, pale eyes. His lips were moving. "What are you saying?" I asked. He turned, blinking slowly, like waking from sleep. "It's coming back." Those 3 words pulled the floor from under me. That night, I broke into Vance's house. It had been boarded up for months. No one had seen him since the night. I fell into the current, Some said he skipped town. Some said the town made him disappear. The truth? He never left. I found his body in the basement, dried like leather, mouth stretched open in a scream, sitting in front of a rusted pipe that pulsed with moisture even though the main line had been shut off for months. In his lap, a new notebook. Pages torn, stained, unfinished. But at the very end was a line scratched so deeply into the paper it tore. The hollow never ends. It just changes shape. Underneath that, a symbol I recognized. The same runes etched into the pool drain. Now carved into the wall of his basement, smeared in salt. I ran home in the rain, and in the quiet, I heard it again. Drip, 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 from the kitchen, from the bathroom, from the floor drain in the laundry room that had never made a sound in my life. I opened the cover. Beneath it, a single blue light blinked up at me, like an eye. Eli and I didn't hesitate this time. We packed. We left notes. We returned to where it all began. The Pinecrest Park fountain. Small, unthreatening, but fed by a deep water system that hadn't existed before the rebuild. We'd learned enough to know this was no coincidence. I brought Vance's final journal. A flashlight. A length of salt line wrapped in string. Eli carried what we hoped would work. A detonator made from old fireworks, fertilizer, and an iron weight marked with the rune of closure, the only counter-seal Vance ever trusted. It wasn't a plan. It was a final act. We slipped into the Y fountain after dark, crawling through the access hatch marked Waterline A Revised. The tunnel was tighter this time, newer, but the current already lived in the walls, whispering, groaning, breathing. The hollow current hadn't died. It had adapted. 2 hours into the descent, we found the heart, not like before. This wasn't some ancient chamber with stone walls and blue light. This was a copy. New concrete, PVC pipe, and fiber optic lines, all pulsing with black water that shimmered like oil. And in the center, floating, flickering, like a memory. Lexi. But not just Lexi. There were others. Dozens now. Faces of those who'd gone, missing from neighboring towns. Their bodies only half-formed, some fused into the walls, some trapped in rippling glass pillars of water, blinking slowly like they were watching TV from the inside out. Eli screamed, "They're not dead!" "No," I said. "They're stored." Lexi turned to us. Her voice echoed from the water inside our bones. "You thought the drain was the end. It was only the mouth." I took the iron weight from Eli. Lexi raised her hands, but the water didn't rise this time. Instead, the walls rippled, and we saw it, the body of the hollow, a thing without bones, with pipes for veins and eyes like floating orbs, shaped like no creature on Earth, and behind it, millions of tendrils, each connected to a face. Eli activated. "The fuse." "Don't," Lexi said. "I remember who I was. But I'm more now. We all are. It doesn't hurt. It's peace." My hands shook. She stepped forward. "Let go." "No," I said, dropping the weight. The detonation wasn't an explosion. It was a collapse. Water screamed. The tunnel shuddered. Tendrils writhed. And for the first time, the current shrank. The faces vanished into light. Lexi smiled once. Then she winked out, like steam. We woke up on dry earth. No water, no sound. Just sunrise over Pinecrest. The park was gone. A sinkhole had swallowed it whole. No bodies were recovered, no answers given. But for the first time in a year, the drains were silent. Epilogue. It's been 5 years. Eli's in college now. I work in hydrology. I map currents, monitor pressure. I keep watch, because I know it's not over. The hollow current doesn't die. It just changes shape. Sometimes when it rains, I hear her voice in the gutters. Singing, other times the pipes hum beneath my feet, low and patient, waiting, because the water always remembers and it never gives back what it takes.